Week number 8, the Ocho on the Talking Bear Football Podcast.
Right here on westbranch.football.
Presented by the Browns West Branch family of dealerships.
The Ocho, not ESPN the Ocho. It's week 8. Very important week in West Branch football. So many things, so many conversations and possibilities of playoffs. Yes, we could start to talk playoffs after this week, but before that, let's talk about week 7 and West Branch's 26-8 loss. Now, if you would have asked me before the season or before last week if I thought West Branch could beat Regina, I would have said yes, but they would have had to play a very good game on both sides of the football. Defensively, it did play well enough, I think, to win that football game, Matt, but just didn't get it done offensively, and you got to give Regina a lot of credit. They're very, very physical, and they really, really showed it.
Well, I think what you just said about can they beat Regina, and yes, if they play well enough on both sides of the football, I think that was 100% accurate. And the West Branch defense, despite giving up 26 points, I thought they shined in this game, to be quite honest. It's inevitable that the Regal offense is going to muscle their way down the field, 4 or 5 yards every play, get hit at the line of scrimmage, but somehow still fall forward for 3 or 4 yards. That's just what they do. There's no way around it. I don't think anyone's going to be able to stop that. And to be frank, I thought the Bears handled it well. And I thought that they toughened up considerably once they got on the other side of the 50 and really made Regina earn everything in that game. Of course, the Regals had a couple big plays here and there, which ultimately proved to be the difference. But the Bears defense forced numerous change of possessions in the second half and gave the offense plenty of opportunities to get back into the game. And of course, ultimately that didn't happen. But I think in the end I was pretty impressed with the defensive effort. And hey, have to give major credit to Regina for their defense as well for holding the Bears offense scoreless.
And for you, Steven, when you think about at this point in the season against an opponent like Regina, you could say, hey, we've seen how it's gone over the last 15 years, that series. Throw that out. A very wet field on Friday night after a morning rain, but it started to slick up and gave bad footing. It was really tough to get footing for that offense for both teams as the game wore on. But the Regals sort of settled in, and the Bears were trying to play catch up for most of the game after the first quarter.
Yeah, I mean, this West Branch offense isn't built to be able to score 20 points in one quarter necessarily. We have some athletes, we have the capabilities, but we're also going to be a team that, kind of like the Iowa Hawkeyes, we're looking at our defense, we're looking at grinding things out and just chewing up yards here and there, and we don't necessarily have a lot of the home run capability, at least on the regular basis. And so when you do fall behind and then you get onto a wet field like that, and to Matt's point, tip your cap, because we tried a lot of different things. Coach Hirschman was pulling out all the stops, and Regina just showed what a very disciplined football team looks like in the fact that they stayed home, they played their assignments. A lot of the things that we've seen our defense do really well, Regina did just as well, if not a little bit better, in that game Friday night, and just made it hard for our offense to get comfortable, allow Carver the time to find a receiver down the field, or, allow Andy to find any of those running lanes. They just shut all of that down and made it hard for us to do anything consistently on that offensive side.
So 26-8, the final score, Matt. How did we get there?
On Regina's first offensive snap of the game, goes right over Tierney's head and into the end zone. There's a scramble for it, and ultimately the result of the play was ruled a safety. The referee right there in the end zone, who had the best look at it of anybody, other than maybe you, Jason Miller, standing right there too.
Yeah.
The referee ruled Regina had gained possession in the end zone. Taking a second look, not sure about that, as it was very clear, at least on the video, that they never gained possession. Yeah, Tierney jumped on it. It was under him, but it was still bouncing around, moving around. It flopped up into the air at one point after that. Kinnick Belk recovered the ball inbounds for what should have been a touchdown, but it is what it is, and the Bears have an early 2-0 lead, and that momentum that they needed in this game.
I just said, huh? Because I never really saw anybody gain possession until Kinnick did in the end zone. But
Yeah. And the fun part of that is, before we move on, is Stephen, I listened to your call when I watched the replay, and you said you assumed from up where your view was that they called a safety because you assumed when Kinnick Belt got control of the football, that they said it's a safety because his feet were touching the end line.
yeah, that was my thought.
Well, that seemed to be the only logical thing.
Yes, but
From
being
where we
about
were seeing
12
it.
feet away, yeah. Personally, I was 12 feet away, maybe less, from the play, and no one had any control of that football until Kinnick Belk had control of the football. But, hey, the Bears were spotted 2 points right away, and that's a good thing, to get points without having to do much work.
Yep. So the Bears get the ball after the free kick, after the safety. They fail to do anything with it, and Regina takes it 80 yards right down to the field in the end zone on an 18-yard run from Levi Daniel. 2-point conversion was no good. 6-2 Regina at that point. The Bears offense again punts to Regina, and on the Regals' first play of that resulting possession, Jack Tierney completes a pass to Aitchison, but Cash Woody forces a fumble right after he caught it, and Drake Berry recovers it for a scoop and score touchdown. PAT was no good, so Bears 8-6 reclaim the lead there, still in the first quarter. And then after that, Regina scored 20 unanswered with a 44-yard touchdown pass to Jensen, a 28-yard screenplay to Daniel, and a 29-yard touchdown rush from Daniel. And so we ended, 26-8.
And the things that we thought going into this game that were going to make a difference, were going to play a role in the game, were up front. The physicality, the size of Regina really did. And because if you look at some of those plays, you got a screen pass that went for how many yards, Matt, for a touchdown? 30, 40?
Which
Daniel?
one? Sorry. The screen?
Yes.
28.
28. He had a long run. He had 2 runs. And they had all kinds of time on a late developing post route when you throw a touchdown pass down the middle from Tierney to Jensen. He had all kinds of time. That pocket was like a half moon set up. That means the blocking is pretty good. So they did their job as advertised, but West Branch gave them some fits later in the game when the field started to come around, play to everybody. Tip your hats to the Regals. They played a good game. Tip your hats to the Bears. They played a good game. Just came up short. But there is a lot to play for, and we'll get to that here in a little bit. What were some of this, when you look at it like this? I mean, we see 26-8. Obviously, that's the key stat, starting with you, Stephen. When you look at some of the statistics that West Branch could say, we can hang our hat on that. What's something that stands out to you in the 7th game of the season against the best opponent that they've played this season?
Some of the near misses. I mean, I said we're not necessarily, built to be a big play type team, but you look, I mean, we hit that long screen pass to Andy Henson for a touchdown, but it was called back on a penalty. And I think we had 2 or 3 other instances where, we were just a step away from getting some good things going. And so, not even necessarily looking specific stat-wise, but just kind of the flow of the game was, just kind of like we've seen throughout the course of this season of how this offense has progressed and grown and developed. And you see that even some of those things that might work against a lesser opponent, when you play a really good team like Regina, that little half step on if you start with the wrong foot or you take just the wrong angle on getting your block or finding that hole or on your pass route, those little things make a difference. And if you're able to hit that correct route, then suddenly you make that block or you get that catch for a touchdown or you don't get called for a penalty, and it completely changes the flow of the game. And I think we shot ourselves in the foot a couple of times, not necessarily just penalties, but just, we were so close, just couldn't quite punch through. And so it's just one of those things of continuing that building, continuing that process, continuing that effort. And I mean, one of the notes that I wrote down on my drive chart where I kind of keep some game notes and see how the flow is going, even when we're down 26-8 with 3 minutes to go, our guys were playing hard. We were fighting out there. It's not like we hung our hat and said, oh, well, this game's over. We were playing to the very end of that football game. And so, I mean, that's another thing to build your hat on is, you know what? it's 48 minutes of football. You play all 48 minutes at 120%, and 9 times out of 10, good things are going to happen.
I love the fact that the Bears kept fighting. No, they knew they couldn't catch up. They knew that they weren't going to get an 18-point play in 3 minutes. But like you said, they just kept putting it on and fighting, and being on the sidelines, hearing the coaches saying this, keep your fight up, keep your fight up. Nobody let down, and it was great to just hear that for a very young football team. Reminder of that is, Matt, coming to you, looking at the Bears' base offense. 8 of the 11 starters are underclassmen. So to be in a game with some of these guys haven't played in a game like of this magnitude before. So to be in that area, to get that feel, it bodes well as you're going forward to the playoffs in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, and speaking of underclassmen, I think we mentioned him last week too, but I think this was just another game in the progression that has been for Kaleseidel.
Yes.
His play at corner Friday night against Regina was phenomenal. The few times that he was targeted, he was right there. Interception, great position to knock down a pass were the 2 ones that I remembered heading into that southwest end zone, I think it is. So I was just real impressed with Kale there in his play and his continued progression at that cornerback spot. I mean, can we say like Seidel Island yet? We're getting there. We'll see. But I think, yeah, just that young nucleus that this team has, it's gonna continue to pay dividends.
When you look at the end of the game, cornerbacks, both guys playing on the island out there, what class are they?
Sophomores. Yeah, holding on.
Look at the safeties. When you really think about it, if you take away Cash Woody, his replacement, what class are those 2 guys?
Juniors, I believe.
Both juniors. They look a lot alike too.
Yeah.
They're twins. And then you look at the linebackers. You've got a senior and a senior up front. Take those 3 away, you've got basically 8 guys back on the defense as well. So good things are coming. They played a good game, just didn't get it done Friday, but it's gonna bode well as we go on. And the playoffs, I think, start in week 8, and we'll get to that in a little bit down the line here in this program. Matt, some of the looking at District 5, it besides Regina and West Branch right now, it's a little convoluted.
Yeah, well, yeah, and it got even more convoluted with the other game that happened Friday night. Durant beating Mediapolis 18-7. I mean, Durant's a good football team, but so is Mediapolis. I don't think anybody expected that one to go the way that it did.
I would really love to get a copy of that game film and just kind of see the flow, because I had peeked at it, and Mediapolis had 400 yards of offense, 180 rushing yards from Isley, 150 yards passing, and they only score 7 points with 400 yards of offense. So that must have been a special teams nightmare or something. I don't know. That's just one of those that you play the games on the field, not on the paper.
Amazing. I'm going to watch that, I think, tonight, actually, now that you mention it, just to see the Nolan DeLong show, because with the stats that you mentioned for him, and then to see how is a team, I mean this with the utmost respect, how do you have 400 and some odd yards of offense and yet only put up 7 points? Must have been some turnovers or Durant just making stops at the right time.
Yeah, so looking at the District 5 standings here heading into the final week of the season, Regina sits at the top 4-0, and let's see, I think mathematically have won it, correct? I guess
That's correct.
We can talk about that.
We could technically tie, but they would still get the number 1 seed because they have the head-to-head with us.
Right. Yeah, so Regina at 4-0, West Branch 3-1, Wilton and Durant at 2-2, Meepo at 1-3, and then L&M, I guess just disqualified, you could say, since they have forfeited the rest of the season.
Yeah, they said no mas on the season. So looking at it as it is now, Regina, yes, they are at the top of the table, and that is not going to change. They are going to be the number 1 seed, win, lose, or, well, you can't draw in week 8. But then you look at West Branch, 3-1, and Wilton and Durant at 2-2. West Branch plays Wilton this week. Now that could have some interesting scenarios. Let's go ahead and get into it. West Branch beats Wilton this week. Steven, where does that put them?
It puts West Branch second in the district for sure. At 4-1, puts Wilton at 2-3.
That's correct. Now Durant plays Regina. Let's just, for the sake of argument, say Durant loses to Regina. They go to 2-3, correct?
Yep, that's my math.
2-3, and Meepo is going to get a win by forfeit. Again, 2-3. So that's Wilton, Durant, Mediapolis at 2-3. Just assuming a few things, that West Branch wins over Wilton and Durant loses to Regina. These are just assumptions for anybody listening out there. We're not giving any bulletin board material.
This is simply for the discussion of how messy the district could be.
Yes. So if that scenario plays out, a West Branch win and a Regina win play out, the 17-point differential, you go to a three-way tie, well, they all beat each other up. Durant beat Meepo. Meepo beat Wilton. And, yeah, it's just a mess. So they go to what's called a 17-point differential. You want to try and take a stab at explaining that one, Steven?
So basically, I mean, folks may remember it used to always be the 13-point differential, but they're looking at it in terms of what is your average margin of victory. So anytime you win, you get a point for the margin up to 17. So for instance, Regina on Friday night wins 26-8. That's an 18-point win. They get 17 points. On the flip side, West Branch loses by 18, so we lose 17 points. We don't lose the 18. If you win 42-0, you get 17 points. If you win 24-21, you get 3. Mediapolis loses 3. So then they average that out over the course of the season, and they help use that for tiebreakers.
The fun part is we did some math. Now, assuming, again, all those are there. Looking at the 17-point differential, point totals, just looking at the 4 games they've already played, adding up their wins and losses, the differential, through the first 4 weeks of the district. That's week 4, 5, 6, and 7. Durant would be at 12 total. So their differential would be at a 3 positive. Wilton would be at a negative 15 total, meaning their differential would be at a negative 3.75. And Mediapolis is at a negative 14 total, 1 point less than Wilton. So that puts them at a negative 3.5, whatever, that word. Meepo's going to get a 17er this week. I think we can almost guarantee that, given they're getting a forfeit. And I believe you get 17 points for a forfeit. That's correct?
I believe so, yes.
That being the case, Meepo moves to 3 total points. Minus 14 plus 17. Common math, I guess, says that's 3 total. So we'll just look at like that. Assuming if West Branch beats Wilton, they're going to go down. They're still in negative. Okay? And then you look at Durant, if they were to... It's just, all things considered, if the biggest thing to remember here is if West Branch wins, Wilton is not going to make the playoffs. And that's an interesting scenario, given that team was at one point 4-0 on the football season. That's crazy to think that they won't make the playoffs at this point.
That's why you play all 8 games.
That's why you play the game. Sherm Edwards would love it. So, all that mumbo jumbo matters not right now. We'll talk about that next week. But for now, let's take a break. Hear from one of our sponsors.
For over 50 years, the Fulwider Insurance Agency has provided quality insurance coverage for the West Branch area. The Fulwider Agency provides superior customer service and quality insurance solutions for you. As trusted choice independent agents, we're able to find the best insurance products and services available to protect you, your family, and your business. Call 643-2695 to ask for a free insurance review. The Fulwider Agency, a proud supporter of the West Branch Bears.
So we hinted at it last week, Matt. We wanted to do a little over-under check-in. Little fun contest we did. Went in a contest just for fun. No, we're not even involving pride, are we? We just did it just to have some extra fun. And before the season started, Matt had a few categories. So let's talk about it. Where are we now?
Well, we had one hit this week, so we can talk through that. But 223.5 points scored. Through 7 weeks, we're at 181. So in order to hit that for a push, we have to score 42.5, which can't happen. So if we're under 43 points this week against Wilton, we'll be under there. But if we're 43 or over, then we'll be at the over on that category. So
Go Bears.
yeah, go Bears. I mean, that's gonna be tough to do. That's a lot of points.
It's a lot of points.
A lot of points, but not impossible. Over under 127.5 points allowed. We're sitting at 90 through 7 weeks. And
wow.
So we're still 37.5 points away. Again, that's a lot of points. So I have the under there, so I'm feeling confident about that one, especially with the Bears defense.
I think we put a red check mark there for right now. Not green quite yet, but I think, Matt, you're going to get a red check mark there.
Andy Henson, over under 935.5 rushing yards. He's got 872 through 7 weeks. So he needs 63.5 is the differential right now. So he needs 64 to hit that over. And I think we all had the over on that one.
Steven, I'll take the over on the 63.5. How about you?
I'm not giving any bulletin board material.
Well, I'm only saying that because if West Branch wants to win Friday, Andy Henson's probably going to have a fairly significant amount of yards. The Bears need to be successful on the ground. It's just the way it is.
All right, so as I alluded to, we had one hit here, and this one you can't really. It's over under 1.5 non-quarterback pass attempts, and we can't really have negative pass attempts here. So this one will stay at the over. We so far through 7 weeks have 3, and 2 of them coming Friday against Regina. Andy Henson had one that took forever to be called an incomplete pass, even though it was obviously an incomplete pass.
Timeout. I think the officials are still huddling to discuss, is that a pass attempt or is that a fumble?
Yeah, they haven't decided yet, even though he threw the ball forward.
If you haven't listened to the Bearcast, you'll know my thoughts on it.
And then a little bit later in the game, too, Connor Rios came in. And yes, he is a quarterback, but he was not playing the position of quarterback in that game. So 2 non-quarterback pass attempts puts us at 3, so that is the over there. Let's see, who had what? We all had the over on that one, so congratulations to us there. And over under 10.5 interceptions. We're at 6 through the 7 games. So we're going to need 5 to hit that over. And that's a tall task.
All 3 of us said over on that one then?
Actually, Steven and I said the under, you said the over, Jay. You had the over in everything.
Yeah, I figured.
Such an optimist.
Yeah, I'm all for that.
Talk about bulletin board material.
Well, yes, that's me. All about bulletin board material. I'm guessing that the Bears don't, that Wilton doesn't have a little Tua at quarterback next week and throwing 5 picks.
Reference
Speaking of which, I'm not quite certain who's going to be their quarterback.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
So we'll see. We'll get into that.
Yeah, in our last category here, over under 1.5 special teams touchdowns. We're still sitting at 1. When did we have that one? Was it the first game?
Mac Valley.
Mac Valley.
Right.
Opening
I keep
kickoff.
asking that same question every week, and you guys keep
That's
telling
okay.
me the answer, and I never remember it. So yeah. We're hoping for 1 Friday against Wilton because we all had the over in that one.
And if we hit it, we're going to play Strutter by Kiss, because that's the request of special teams coordinator Kevin Braddock. So, okay, well that was fun. It's fun to see that I'm probably not going to do very well, but all I care is that the over/under on West Branch wins this coming week. I'm going to put it at 0.5, and I'm going to take the over because I hope West Branch gets to 1. Senior night is what we're going to talk about on Friday. Final regular season game. It's senior night, and it's the Wilton Beavers coming to town and to play at the Little Rose Bowl, which will mark the 4th home game of the season, which pretty much quadruples the total of last year. But as we've already talked about, this game not just for the seniors. They want to go out on a win, which quote unquote is the right way. You want to go out of your final game of your regular season of your senior year. You want to go out with a dub, but they want to do it to solidify the second spot in the playoffs of their district, second position in this district as we move to the playoffs. And if they do that, they will earn another home game. But the Wilton Beavers, have a lot to play for. They are win and they're in, lose, and it's up to math. And you never want to leave anything to math, guys. That's never much
Math
fun.
is never wrong.
So beats the just dealing with the alphabet like we used to do years ago.
Oh, we still deal with it.
Yeah,
We do for home. We do for in all the tiebreakers in the playoffs. If there's a big tiebreaker or a neutral site, the first person, the beginning of the alphabet is the tiebreak this year. That was also the tiebreak that kept West Branch in Class 1A rather than Class A. If it were the end of the alphabet, West Branch would have been in Class A this year. That's a completely different discussion that matters not anymore. But just to give it some perspective. So Wilton, the Beavers, Ryan Hetzler, the coach, he was on Butch Peterson's staff in the Shrine Bowl a couple years ago. Up-and-coming coach, got a good young, very, very young team. We're talking about West Branch being young, guys. Wilton might be younger, and their freshman and 8th grade classes that are coming up were spectacular in junior high, and are. So they've got some bright moves coming up, but they want to win on Friday.
They are young, but they do have some pretty good seniors that are kind of leading the way for them. Especially you look, Jackson Hole is their running back, 205 pounds, just over 100 yards per contest. So, I mean, he's a big bruiser. Not quite the same as Nolan DeLong, but pretty similar in terms of north-south runner. He's not going to be real shifty and dancing around. He's just going to look for contact and lower the shoulder on you. A couple of pretty good receivers, and they got some beef up front too. That right side of their offensive line, or the left side rather, their guard, Alex Kaufman, 5'11", 260. Their tackle, Briggs Hartley, 6'5", 340. He is a big boy, and it's not a typical just, hi, I'm a big body that takes up space. I mean, he plays tackle, and he is able to move. I mean, he is not going to just stand out there and take up space. So it's going to be a good challenge for both sides of the ball because, I mean, they've got some pretty good schemes that they do, similar to what you saw. You see a lot of it anymore. It's that zone read scheme where the quarterback makes you stay home and it's kind of an option look, but they're not afraid to throw it out as well, and they've got some pretty decent receivers too. So, it's a young team, but they've got some good senior leadership that's kind of paving the way for them.
And Matt, I'll flip it over to the defensive side for Wilton for you. Tyrell Hughes is a guy you're going to have to look out for. He's a junior. He's now tied for 8th in all of Class 1A with 13 tackles for loss. He's a menace in your backfield.
Yeah, he's the guy that I circled and have watched so far very closely in film because, number 58, junior Tyrell Hughes, defensive end. He kind of plays this kind of drop down, like stand-up linebacker, 3-point defensive end. He's kind of in various different stances depending on the play and the down and stuff, but extremely athletic, plays with a ton of energy. He is just a fireball on the field, and team's leading tackler, all those tackles for loss, Jason, that you mentioned, 4.5 sacks this season. He's got some good pass rushing moves, and what I was kind of impressed about with him, he does a really good job about moving laterally across the line of scrimmage. So if a play goes the other way, he quickly gets across to the other side of the field to either make a tackle or make an impact on a play if the player were to come back inside, or even just if a play strings it out to the edge, he's right out there. He's got the speed and ability to catch that. So I think he's going to be an important factor for this Wilton defense, and somebody that this West Branch offensive line and is going to have to watch out for. And I think maybe like a Kinnick Belk at a wing, or even like a Wyatt Federland at a fullback, going to have to pay attention to him to keep him contained and prevent him from getting out to the edge. So Andy Henson had some running room on the edge, or even those throwing plays that we throw out to the edge to prevent Hughes from coming out and making a play.
And one thing that stood out to me, statistically speaking, and we've mentioned this player before a couple of weeks ago. Hopefully his health is doing well. Is Kaden Kirkland hasn't played a down in 2 weeks basically, but well, obviously not last week because they didn't have to play. But he was injured a couple weeks ago against Durant, and hopefully he's doing a lot better. Not sure if he's going to play this week or not. But he hasn't played in a couple of weeks, and he still is the leading receiver on this football team. 6'7", great basketball player, and a great big target for either Ormsby or Walker to throw the ball up to. And looking at the West Branch D-backs, if this kid is playing, that is what they would call a mismatch. You've got 6'6" going against West Branch's tallest is maybe 6 foot, 6'3" with the afro, a Fletch reference in Holden Arneman. He's a little taller. He's got a lot of hair up there that I don't have. But he's 6 foot. Everybody's shorter going down the line. So that, if he plays, that is a significant advantage for a football team of any venture, but specifically Wilton on Friday. And he's a great athlete, as I already mentioned before. It's going to be fun. A lot on the line. These seniors from West Branch have a lot to play for, not just to get second in the district, but they don't want to think what happened in my last regular season game at the Little Rose Bowl 20 years from now. Like, I don't want to say that. You don't want to say you lost that. You want to have that great memory for your last night, your senior night in West Branch. Well, that about does it for the Beavers, in West Branch. And all I say is get there early, because senior night's probably going to start. The festivities will start somewhere around 6:15. I think Matt is going to do a free fall, a free base jump from the top with a parachute from the top of the press box. Is that true or not?
No comment.
Okay, remains to be seen.
Get there early and be surprised, one way or the other.
If he doesn't do it, we're going to throw one of those old Army parachute guy toys.
Yeah, no
just
guarantees.
to see if it actually works.
Yeah, no guarantees.
The Talking Bear Football Podcast is presented by Browns West Branch. Also brought to you by Main Street Suites, EMS Detergent Services, Hodge Construction, Cornerstone Real Estate Consultants, Fidelity Bank and Trust, Fulwider Insurance Agency, Touch by Power Massage Therapy, the West Branch Times, the Hoover Presidential Foundation, and Marcy Willier with Urban Acres Real Estate.
Picks to click. Last week in week 7, we picked them. Bears didn't win, so I guess we won't even get into discussing that, Matt, or are you going to bring it up anyway? Your choice.
Our picks
the
to
pot
click?
is yours from last week.
Oh, yeah, we still have to talk about them.
Let's talk about them.
Yeah, just because we lost doesn't mean we skip out on important segments.
I'm just going to say somebody changed their pick to click this week, and we lost. So.
And I was trying to save Matt the agony of hearing from
As
Steve.
I alluded to last week, I am not superstitious.
I know. I'm just kidding.
Steven, you had Dirk Berry, scoop and score touchdown. Yeah, that works. Jason, Cole Bailey, always a menace on defense. And I had Holden Arneman, but of course my secondary pick was always Wyatt Fetterland. Kind of an unspoken pick to click, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Jason, you're first this week.
Well, I am going to say that, how about it's going to be senior night that we have to select a senior this week. Does that sound fair?
If that senior's name is Wyatt Fetterland, then yeah.
Oh, so now you're superstitious. I get it.
No. Yeah, go ahead, Jay.
Boy, which senior should I choose? You know what? Why not? I am going to go with Peyton Miller, because if we're going to hit that possibility of hitting that second touchdown on special teams, he's probably going to be involved in it.
You can't, Jay.
Oh, I already chose him once?
Yeah, you did. Week 2.
He was our one-timer?
Yeah, he was a one-timer.
He was a one-timer. See how we forget so quickly. I will choose... Gavin Hills.
Didn't you just say Cole Bailey?
No, I changed it because I'm not superstitious. If I wasn't superstitious, I guess I should select him then because, we lost, but I'm going to select him anyway. Got to have a senior, and I'm going to go with the guy in the middle again. Number 50, Cole Bailey. Let's stick with it.
Yeah, I'm taking senior number 13, Cash Woody. I liked the targets that he got Friday from Carver Belk. He's just a tall, athletic guy. He's playing extremely well with his safety position. I really want to see him get involved on the offense. So yeah, I'm taking Cash Woody. I like what he's been doing this season.
I guess that leaves us Stephen Grace.
Is that how that works? Jeez. You guys spring this on me. I'm third? Oh, dang. I was going to go with one of the underclassmen. I was actually thinking about it ahead of time. I was going to go, but since we're going seniors to pay respect, looking at seniors, I mean, I love these guys. There's a bunch of good ones. Who am I going to pick, though?
First name has to start with a C.
First name has to start with a C. Do we have any other seniors with the first name starts with a C? How about Captain Drake Berry? Just because I love his number, I love his motor, I love what he does. I know I picked him last week. I've picked him earlier in the year, but he's my guy. He's got a great number, just like me, although I wasn't wearing 77, but, I mean, we both scored touchdowns at Regina in our high school careers, so I'm going to ride with him, and I'll look for my underclassmen when we get to the playoffs.
Ride or die. Double sevens. That's a pretty good pick, Matt.
Yeah, I would agree.
Let's wrap it up. Put a bow on it. Maybe put it under the tree for next week.
We haven't had one of those in a while, Jay.
No, I decided
the presents under the tree have been pretty sparse this year.
Yeah, so let's bring them out. We need gifts. It's the end of the season, and we're going to start a new season. It's time to gift everybody the joy of a postseason game in West Branch, hopefully with a victory on Friday. Speaking of West Branch football, how do we keep up with all things that, Stephen?
Jay, before we do move on to that, I do have a question.
Okay.
So extending our hypotheticals that we had earlier.
Sure.
If West Branch were to win Friday.
Yes.
And we get second in the district. What's it looking like as far as potentially who we may play and where we may play the following week?
Okay. If we are the second seed, we will play at home. That is a guarantee. That we know.
Moline lock?
That is a Moline lock per the Iowa High School Athletic Association postseason manual. Now, what's not a Moline lock, because logic and playoff pairings over the boys in Boone don't always, the word logic and playoff pairings don't always work out the way they used to. They don't have matching districts anymore. But I think this year, my opinion, my feeling, is that District 1's going to play 2. District 3 is going to play 4. That goes straight west to east on the northern side of Iowa. And then 5, West Branch's district, is going to play 6, which is south and west. But it's a neighboring district. So that being the case, I think it's all going to shake out, as you said, assuming we'll just talk about the hypothetical West Branch victory. I think West Branch will play Cardinal of Eldon. The Cardinal Comets will be coming to West Branch for a number 2 versus number 3 seed first round. Well, I don't even know if it's the official playoffs till it gets to 16. I don't know how that works, but postseason week 9 battle. I think it'll be West Branch and Cardinal. For the rest of the district, if you want that, my opinion, I think you'll see Central Leon Decatur as the number 4 in that district traveling to Regina. I think the Durant Meepo, it could go either way. One of them is going to play Sigourney. One of them is going to play Pella Christian. Pella Christian defeated Cardinal last week by a very wide mark, like 52-8. So they have solidified the second seed in that district.
And in the event that the Bears lose?
In the event that the Bears lose, they will be the 3 seed. That is a guarantee. Math, the points work out in West Branch's favor. Even if they lose by 17, they're still going to be up there in a 3 seed because every team that would be tied with them, they will have defeated, except for Wilton. But Wilton will only have one district. It's a long story, but Wilton will be the only team with 2 district losses, along with West Branch. And the first tiebreaker is head-to-head. So if Wilton beats West Branch, they'll be the 2 seed. West Branch will be the 3 seed. And then Durant and Meepo will fight it out for the 4. And guess what happens there? Durant would be the 4 seed, and Minneapolis wouldn't even make the playoffs because of head-to-head. So those are the scenarios I think it's going to be. Regina's going to be 1. West Branch, assuming West Branch win, well, hypothetically West Branch wins, you go Regina, West Branch, Durant, or Meepo, Durant. And then I think you go, if West Branch hypothetically loses, you go Regina, Wilton, West Branch, Durant. So that's where it's at. We'll check my math and everything next week.
You're usually pretty spot on.
Well, sorry, I'm tearing up. Thank you. No, but
yeah.
I think that's it. And I think in the round of, it just makes it easier when you're doing half the team. Well, 60% of the teams are making the postseason now. So if you do it by this district, you're basically getting your semifinalists really easily and you're limiting the travel time. 1 versus 2, 3 versus 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The winner of those those quadrants, so to speak, you now have 4 teams that'll make the semifinals. And geographically, it just makes sense. Well, let's see if they decide to follow along with making sense.
I'd be curious if they would say, let's match it up, kind of like you said, for that first round for, week 9. And then after we've got 16 left, let's seed it. Or even seed the East and the West, or the North and the South, or however you want to do it. But
hey, that's logical. I like it.
So it won't happen.
It won't. No, because if it is that scenario like they've talked about before, that hypothetically speak, the week 9 games, since this is the first time they've done this in a long time with 32 teams, you get down to 16 after week 9, which was the regular playoff number. So, Stephen, that actually I think that holds some weight as well. But the first week, I think they'll go the rate of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then they may just do the seeding East-West, because that would make sense. Why would we do that? But we'll see. First, let's make sense of it. All things West Branch football, because we want West Branch to be at the higher level of that playoff standing. But how do we keep up with them, Steven? I know you're going to zip right through it.
I am going to roll through it, because you go to the internet and you search West Branch football, and it'll show up somewhere. That includes YouTube. We've got a channel there. Social media, just look for @WB Bears Football. Follow along. Listen in to the podcast, whatever it is. Just go @WB Bears Football. Search it on YouTube. You can find it. It's easy.
The tube of you. Matt, does that all check out with you? I mean, you're the technical director here.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. You know what else sounds good?
A Bear win?
Well, on the side note, we saw the Vikings win for you today.
I don't claim that as a win, but it counts as a win in the wins. It increases the number in the wins column. Yes,
it does. They're closer to the playoffs now. Closer to making the playoffs.
Playoffs.
West Branch
be lucky to win a game.
The playoffs. Well, guys, as always, it's fun to talk about it. It's fun to regale tales of older times and present day, and do it here. To do it on the Talking Bear Football podcast.
Right here on westbranch.football.
Presented by the Browns West Branch family of dealerships.
And until we get the gifts to put under the tree for next week and wrap up all this regular season stuff and put a bow on it, we ask you to take care, everyone.